What if I told you that one of the fastest growing productivity apps of the past year spent exactly $0 on advertising? No Facebook ads, no influencer campaigns, not even a single sponsored post.
That's such a bold strategy in today's market. Most tech startups are spending millions just to get noticed.
And that's what makes this story so fascinating. Two founders, Maya and Ben, created this incredibly simple goal setting app that spread entirely through word of mouth.
I've seen the statistics where the average cost to acquire a single app user through paid advertising is around $4.50 now. For a startup, that adds up fast.
And that's exactly why their approach is so revolutionary. Instead of throwing money at advertising, they focused entirely on making their product genuinely useful.
So, what made their app different from all the other productivity tools out there?
Well, they took this really counterintuitive approach. While most apps were adding more and more features, they stripped everything down to its absolute essence. Just daily goal planning, nothing else.
That must have been a tough decision in a market where everyone's competing to offer more features.
Oh my gosh, yes. And you know what's fascinating? They actually kept a list of features they deliberately chose not to add. Their mantra was simple: if a feature isn't helpful, we don't add it,
That kind of restraint is pretty rare in the tech world.
right? And here's where it gets really interesting. Maya had this brilliant insight. She said, if we need ads to convince people, maybe the product isn't strong enough yet.
That's such a different mindset from the usual growth at all costs approach.
Exactly. Instead of spending time on marketing campaigns, they spent hours watching how people actually use the app. They made these tiny, incremental improvements every single day.
And how did they manage to spread without any advertising?
Well, this is where they got really clever. They added just one strategic feature, a button that said, invite a friend to set goals together. Not for marketing, but for accountability.
Hmm. So they turned sharing into an actual feature that helped users achieve their goals?
Precisely. And get this, their user retention rates were actually 40% higher than the industry average because people were coming to the app through personal recommendations rather than ads.
That's a pretty impressive metric. Most apps struggle to keep users engaged beyond the first week.
And you know what else? They completely avoided those annoying "we miss you" notifications. Studies show that 60% of users find these types of push notifications annoying enough to uninstall apps.
Well, that's refreshing. Most apps seem to think they need to constantly grab our attention.
Right? And here's another fascinating stat. Their users were spending an average of 12 minutes per day in the app, which doesn't sound like much until you realize that's actually 3 times longer than most productivity apps.
That suggests people were actually using it, not just downloading and forgetting about it.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that their approach challenged this huge myth in the startup world that you need massive funding to succeed. The average seed stage startup raises about $2.2 million, but Maya and Ben built their entire company with just their initial savings.
So they proved you don't need venture capital to build something successful.
Absolutely. And here's what's really wild. Their organic growth approach meant they were profitable within 6 months, while the average startup takes 2 to 3 years to reach profitability.
That's such a powerful example of how focusing on value can beat traditional marketing.
And you know what? Their story is part of a larger trend. Recent studies show that companies with strong word of mouth growth have customer acquisition costs that are 50% lower than their competitors.
Sounds like they tapped into something really fundamental about how people share things they truly value.
Exactly. And it's changing how other startups think about growth. We're seeing a 30% increase in companies prioritizing product-led growth over traditional marketing.
That could really reshape how new companies approach building and launching products.
You know what's really exciting? This might be the beginning of a whole new way of thinking about startup success. Instead of measuring growth by marketing spend, we might start measuring it by actual user value.
Now, that would be a real revolution in how we build and grow companies.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. Sometimes the quietest approaches make the biggest impact. Maya and Ben showed that if you build something truly valuable, you don't need to shout about it from the rooftops.
The product will speak for itself.
And that might just be the future of how successful companies grow. not through loud marketing, but through quiet, genuine value.